And hey, Stephanie, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, Paul?
Good. It's pretty
How's
warm.
New York?
In New York is good. How is North Dakota?
I want to come to New York.
Yes, New York, New York. Well,
Yeah.
you're always welcome here. There's tons of people that would love to meet you and do our holistic practices together in the seminar. I gotta continue to keep setting those things up and getting more people out and more people connected. So that's a plus. Um, there's a lot of people who are angry, and we'll get
There's
to
a
that later.
lot of angry world.
There's a lot of angry people, and we need to
Hmm.
stop. We need to stop being so angry. But
We need to totally stop.
so I think there's a way to stop us from being angry, and there's two ways. One, we have to work on ourselves, and the other way is forgiveness. And
I
now,
agree with that.
so when you are working with someone, you have a connection with them, and
Mhm.
you bring out. Are you able to feel the different parts of their body? Because we know we talked about his meridians. We know we talked about the chakras. Now,
Yep.
when you're working on someone, if they have a blockage, talk about that entanglement that you have between you and your patient.
Well, I can give a scenario or an example. Just yesterday, I was working on a gentleman. He was in an altercation, but he did not tell me anything about what had happened to his shoulder. He came in for a couples massage, and during the course of the couples massage, I laid hands on his shoulder, and I felt a blunt trauma force like a gunshot wound. And
Okay.
I was like, okay, what's coming? Because of course that's a message. It says what, maybe it's not the exact message that comes across right away, but when it unfolds, then it answers the questions in which come forward next. And
Okay.
so I laid my hands on him, and tears started running down my eyes. Like tears just poured out of me. And I felt a sense of despair and anger and frustration, and it was not mine. And I just allowed it to flow through me, and I held the tissue with acknowledgement and intention of acknowledging what had happened to that area.
There you
I
go.
did intention and acknowledgement. I did not have to know what happened.
Mm-mm.
I just had to know that the intent was to give it peace and calm and tell it that it was okay that it was injured and that everything was going to be okay from this day forward. Well, I got through that part of it, and then I started feeling muscle tissue and stuff, and I started feeling different things within the tissue. So now you have the energy part of it, then you have the actual physical muscle part of it,
Right.
and then you have meridians that line to things. But I didn't work with the meridians in this case or the chakras. I actually just laid hands on this person and got messages of what really happened. When he got off the table, he had no more pain in his body, like none. He came up front to pay for his couple's massage with his wife, and they are in their first year of being married. He turned to look at her, and she looked at him, and I was telling him that he had to release the anger in which he had towards this other person, because that is what is actually initially holding that pain in there. And when I got done with that, the most amazing thing happened. He looked at me and he said, "How did you know?" And I said, "Well, it's not for me to know, it's for me to acknowledge." And that was all I was here to do. And what I did is I helped you acknowledge what you were feeling from this trauma. And he said, "That's amazing." And I said, "It is what it is." Because, as you and I both know, this is something that's above us, through us, but not really us.
Right.
It's more than us. And so as he was leaving, he said to me, he said, "I will be back to receive more of this." He said, "This is amazing." And I said, "What actually happened? Can you tell me?" And he said, "Well, he was a correctional officer in a jail, and one of the inmates, which was a very brutal inmate, picked him up and threw him, and they both flew in the air. And when the inmate came down on him, his shoulders shattered, like just tore apart, and the inmate's weight hit into that shoulder. Now, being who I am, I was able to tap into this and feel this and release it. Understanding how to communicate to people and being compassionate allowed me to express it to him. When he left, We both had a sense of peace, and he had a sense of relief and acknowledgement to the pain he had suffered. And the one thing that I said to him that brought tears to his eyes is I said, you don't have to carry the anger anymore. And tears ran out of his face.
So this morning I just wrote something about anger and how people anger is causing so much turmoil in outside of their lives, like in the streets or
Mm-hmm.
out of them, and it's causing so much turmoil inside of them. Okay.
Yes.
And we can help with teaching that understanding that you are holding that emotional bondage inside your body, inside your organs.
Mm-hmm.
My question for you is, I'm glad that people can actually come to you and get that treatment. The
Mm-hmm.
other question I have is, how can we help our healers?
Here's
Yes.
and healers.
Yeah. How can we relay that to? Because if they're not feeling that, they're pretty much just giving I call it the tan rub. Like they're just rubbing tan lotion on you. They're not really doing healing. They're doing relaxation, but it's not a healing. It's different. There's a difference.
Well, relaxation in itself, when someone is angry, it centers to the central nervous system, Paul. It actually brings the central nervous system down. So it actually is healing, but it's not the level of healing where it takes the pain out of a body and leaves it out, because the person now has the perception and acknowledgement of what really happened.
Okay.
So it's really changing the perception first of another human being.
Okay.
And how you do that is you listen very carefully to what they say, and you really feel where they're coming from, right? But if you do a perception change on someone, like so this gentleman thought that no one knew his pain.
Right.
Okay. And when I acknowledged his pain without him telling me that was something for him to say, oh my gosh, someone now knows I was in pain. But I further went with the reading, and then as I was touching him, I realized that this was a huge indication of a trauma, blunt force. He did not tell me that at first. So then I acknowledged the blunt force. The blunt force caused him to lose his job. It caused his life to go crazy. It caused him almost to lose who he was as a person because the anger overrode everything.
Right.
When I acknowledged all the simple little things, it also acknowledged the bigger things. But it was more than acknowledgement that healed that. It was actually letting him know that it was okay he felt the way he felt, by letting him know his perception had been alternated and he needed to change.
Yeah.
And that was basically, if you were to break that down, that's basically what happened in the scientific, psychological level. But in the healing level, we see this as a special gift, or we see this as something more.
Mm-hmm.
And really what it is, it's touch with compassion, but understanding a perception. And I am really, really, really been in experience after experience in my life has taught me perception, has taught me to see outside of many perspectives. So I can see things that most people can't see because I choose to see them.
You choose to see them, right?
Now,
you also understand what you feel about where your life is at too, because that can get kind of confusing between the two, between the patient laying on the table, and if you didn't know where your life was at and who you are, couldn't that get you confused a little bit? If you didn't know
in retrospect to that, absolutely it could if you're not prepared for it. But the truth of the matter is when you're channeling or when this energy comes through you, you are not a part. You are a part of it, but you are not
in it.
You are not making this up in your head, and you're not receiving it through your own brain. It's coming through senses of understanding and acknowledgement, in which who knows where they come from. Some people say they come from their teachers of Buddha. Some people say Jesus, they channel. Some people say they have God on their side. I just call it white light. I call it the energy of feeling at peace and allowing peace to reign through. And compassion, I'd have to say, is the top of the line.
It is.
Compassion for intent.
I think, I study Buddhism and Taoism, and the compassion is to release all things that has anything to do with you in it, and to feel things outside of inside of you. So, most people think they have empathy. Deep empathy is not the same as compassion. So,
Well, being empathic is being able to sense emotion
yes,
from other source of energy or frequency without actually having the emotion yourself. And so there's many different levels, I think, that this all relates to, and you could break it down to its scientific level as well. But being an empathic means that, say someone goes to the grocery store and all of a sudden they walk into a grocery store and they feel this sadness and can't understand why they are sad. They can't for the life, I don't know why I'm sad. My life is fine. Why am I sad? What's happened is someone else's energy or source outside of themselves have now crossed over to their path, and they're entwined with this other person's energy. So if you ever walk into a room and you walk up to someone and you go, "Hi, how are you?" And that person goes, "Hi, I'm good." But then all of a sudden, you feel this sense intense of just this amazing power inside you, and you all feel great and everything is perfect. Now walk up to someone and say, "Hi, how are you?" And they go, "Yeah, I'm fine." You automatically in perception see them as sad, but it's not necessarily really what they are.
that's right.
In my world, I feel it, and then I see it. That's how
I've been working with my daughters, and I've worked with other clients and how to help them strengthen their empathic. But I have two daughters that are so strong empathically that it messes with their heads. Even when as they're growing up, they're like, "Dad, I don't know what I'm feeling." I'm like, "I know you have the gift, and you just gotta understand that this is you, not them, and that's more them, and you're feeling it, and all that stuff."
Right. So we say that, we say, Paul, that there's like people who were something more, or we're something different or something. We're not, because you know what? If you ask every human being on the street how they felt when that happened in Las Vegas,
yes,
every person could sympathize, relate, and feel, and they felt the hurt and the pain.
That's right.
That is being empathic.
That's right.
And there are people in this world who are hurting and don't even know why they're hurting because of what's going on around them.
And that's why we say what you're thinking and what you're saying causes and affects other people. If you're cursing in your car, if you're screaming at another car and flipping other cars off and can't wait online because it's, oh, really? You're causing this energy.
You are causing this energy to shift and be a different type of energy. But I want to also tell you this too, that I realize this has been an experience of my life, is that if I'm driving in my car, the only person that I can be accountable for is my actions and my reaction, right? Mm-hmm. So if someone's driving on the side of me and they say an F word, or they're bad, or they do something nasty, my choice is either to respond back, which then becomes a complete thought, and that becomes an action, and that becomes the energy. But if I choose to be, what I say, bigger than what I see, then what happens is I become peaceful, even though something negative has happened or something has crossed over. And so what I've learned is that nothing anyone says or does can affect you if you choose to walk a path where the words that they say in a negative way or a hurtful way can't cross over. And I think that's a trained thing. You can train people to do that. I think you can train it very easy.
How can you help another therapist work on their compassion so they can start feeling their patients like you?
Well, this is the funny thing. I had a girl that was with me probably about 4 years ago, and she came to me with no self-esteem. She was a massage therapist just out of school. And I actually taught her how to see inside herself. And as she grew as a massage therapist within the 6 months, she then left the massage therapy and became a PA.
Awesome.
Because she realized that she had more to give than massage. And she didn't become a PA in 6 months. She's now a PA now, but in that 6 months time, she realized she was something more. And when she came to me, she was with someone that wasn't very good in her life. She had a lot of issues. And what I taught her is I taught her how to feel from compassion. And I taught her how to feel. And how I did it was when I would go into a massage with her, she would touch and I'd say, no, not like this, like this.
Right.
And then I would show her the touch. And then I would have her breathe deep inside, and I'd say, now feel what you feel. Breathe into it. Express yourself what you're feeling.
Right.
And I knew when I met her, she had the gift, but she wasn't in tune to it. A lot of people have the gift. Every human being on this planet has this ability, Paul. Every human being. But what stops them is their A, perception, B, their personalities, and C, their voice. That's what stops them.
Well,
and with that,
I want to thank you, Stephanie, for teaching us that lesson. And I know we're going to have more lessons for us.
okay.
I know people will contact us here, and I'll direct them to you, or and vice versa, because education is huge. And I know if we can, teach therapists and healers how to really tap into their compassion, learn how to feel their breath, learn how to transmit their breath, the world will be a better place.